Good evening, everyone.
Kavataf, how are you?
Baruch Hashem, thank you. Yeah, looks like we're on bet. We did Aleph. So it says here in the Bet Yosef, כתב המוליכים, says מוליכים, בסוף פרק כמה דביצה, first פרק לביצה. זה מותר לשלוח משכון לגוי ביום טוב. You're allowed to send a pledge to a goy on Yom Tov, על ידי goy, by way of a goy. אם ישלח לשאול לו, if he sends him, right, a request to get a pledge. אבל לא על ידי ישראל, but not by way of a Jew, תהווה כמו אפייה או בישול שאסור לעשות. So it says it resembles like baking and cooking, which is not allowed to do, or bishul goy for a goy. ומשכנות שאנו אוסרים לחזירה, so it says regarding pledges which we forbid to return them בשבת on Shabbat, ביום טוב ויום טוב, משום דמיחזר כמשא ומתן. That's because it looks like it's right, business, right, commerce. אם לא מפני הדוחק. Right, if it wasn't for the fact that it's something legoy, it's something which is urgent for the goy, alam, and he's violent. Anu matirim al yedid goy. So then we allow, because of that, only by way of a goy. The Tosfot katub ber kama de ketubot says Tosfot in the first parak of ketubot. What's letzorech goy? So he says carrying for the sake of a goy nireh dasu seems like it's forbidden. So he says now, that they were accustomed to carry for the goy. So the Rashba says it's because that our public thoroughfare it's not really a public thoroughfare. It's something like semi-public, right? Not really public, Carmelit. Then Rachabot Tet Zayin Amah. Why is that? Doesn't have the width of 16 amot. V'gabe Yom Tov lo gazur Rabbanan. So he says regarding Yom Tov, rabbis did not decree. Ki echi de lo takun eruve chatzerot Yom Tov. Just like they didn't decree to make eruvim on Yom Tov. The mashma beresh perek bet betzal, like it implies in the second parak of betzal. Where is that? Tet Zayin Amud Bet. V'shuv chazar bo the mechatzer she'ena meurevet en lilmod So then he retracts and says that regarding a courtyard which is not doesn't have an eruv, can't learn from there. The Carmelit regarding Carmelit, the Carmelit because Carmelit is more restricted. So what about the question is like this right now? Are you allowed to carry for the sake of an animal? Right? We already explained that it says over there. So it seems like we passed that already. Okay, very good. So let's see what else we got here.
Kavod Harav, the Carmelite is?
So what is the Carmelit? Carmelit is there's basically like in the Talmud it says there's four domains.
Yes.
So one is called public domain, one is called private domain, right, which is private property, and then you have Carmelit, right? So what is Carmelit? It's somewhere in the middle, right? Not exactly this, not exactly that. It's like not totally a public domain.
What would be an example of it? Not
Like the beach, or the ocean, right? So something like that.
Thank you.
Okay. Or a forest, something like that.
Thank you so much.
So yeah, that's what it says here. So let's look at the Shulchan Aruch, see what it says there. It says here in Shulchan Aruch, אסור לישראל להוציא שום דבר ביום טוב לצורך אינו יהודי, right? So you're not allowed to carry something for a goy. Says the Rama, Haga, אבל מותר לשלוח לו על ידי אינו יהודי. But you're allowed to send something to him by way of a goy. That's okay. So, כגון שצריך להחזיר משכון לאינו יהודי, for instance, let's say he needs to return to him a pledge, right? Who's, and he's like a violent guy, right? Gangster, violent, mafia, right? So, kedomer is there, right? Things like this. So, in other words, if you don't send it to him, he's gonna come and right harm you, maybe, right? So, you gotta be careful with this guy. So, therefore, in a case like that, we do allow to send it by way of a goy. Okay, that's about it. So we can go on a little bit. Let's go to Gimel. Lakach Etz. Okay, we didn't see the tour over here. Yeah, so it says in the Torah, לקח עץ שאינו מיוחד לשיפוד וצלה בו בשר אסור לטלטלו. So it says that if you took a piece of wood and it's not really a skewer, right? It's just a piece of wood, So it says, and he roasted some meat on that. You're not allowed to carry that afterwards. Sheno keli, because it's not a utensil. So what do? He says just remove it, right? In other words, remove the meat from the skewer, from the wood, and just put it into the corner, right? Throw it into the corner. In order that people shouldn't be harmed by it, because it could be sharp, even if there's no meat there. There's no meat on it. Okay, that's the tour. Well, let's see the Bet Yosef here. Here's Bet Yosef. He brings a source, Beperek and Sadin, right over there in Betzah. Kaf Chet Amud Bet. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shemuel. Right, these rabbis said, Shipud shetzalu bo basar. Right, if you have a skewer that was roasted meat on it, asur taltelo b'yom tov. You're not going to carry that on Yom Tov. Ravada bar Hava Amar Rav Malkio Shomto Manicho Beken Zabid. So this rabbi says, right, that this rabbi used to just remove the meat, right, and then just throw into the corner. This skewer. Amar Rav Chia bar Ashe, V'hu sheyesh alav kazait basar. So this rabbi says, right, that's only if it has a kazait of meat on it, this skewer. Why is that important, by the way? They should have a kazait of meat. Because this way it won't be muktzah, right? Otherwise it's totally muktzah. That's what it means to say. Ravina, this is one opinion, right? Ravina amar afal pi she'en alav basar. So Ravina says, even though there is no meat on it, mutar l'taltelo miyado midi dehava, so you're allowed to carry it anyway, he says. Why is that? Midi dehava akos b'shut harabim. So he says it's considered to be like something which can cause harm, like a thorn in the public domain. So why is that? Because as we said, right, the wood can be sharp. So somebody can get hurt with that. So therefore, a person could just throw it into the corner. This way, nobody will stumble onto it. So Paskul Arif Rosh Kirabina. So these rabbis paskin the Rif and the Rosh, like Rabina, and as we said, right, he is lenient. What does that mean? That he doesn't require that there should be some meat on the skewer. Okay, so then he goes on. Pirash Rashi asur taltelo. Rashi says you're not allowed to carry it. Miyad leachar shenitzle atzali. So he says the reason why you cannot carry it is because after it was used for roasting, is because it's disgusting, and therefore it's not something which you want to use again. It was already used, for its purpose. So once it was used for its purpose, now it has no purpose. So therefore, right, he says that's why you gotta get rid of it, basically, right? It's muktzah. Interesting. So, in other words, to explain that a little bit better, right? The reason why he says this is because it's a wooden skewer, So wooden skewers are not really reusable. They get burnt, they get charred, So there's nothing you can really do with it after you used it. So you just throw it away. That's what it means to say, So what will we do? We will put it in the garbage, that's the best thing to do, right? Nothing better than that. Okay. So then he says, Shomto manicho b'keren zabit, right? As we said, he would remove the meat and just, chuck it into the corner. Shomto milefanav maher b'grera v'tiltul min hatzad and right ad she'abirenu milefanav b'keren zabit. So he says, right, that what's the technique over here? How do you do this? So he says the way it's done is that you can like drag it or like do it in an abnormal manner. Right? So in other words, when you have muktzeh, right, to push it in an abnormal manner is allowed. Even though you're not allowed to carry it in the normal way, but just to do some abnormal stuff is okay. So what would be an example of that? Like let's say you push it with your foot, right? You drag it along. So this is not the usual way of carrying things, so therefore it's allowed, So what do? You push it with your foot, right, until you get into the corner, and just leave it there. So what does that mean? It means that if it's on the floor, you shouldn't pick it up, because it's muktzah, so you can't pick it up. Okay, good. So then he goes on. אבל לא טלטול גמור, you can't do regular carrying, אפשר לטלטולה, right? But טלטול גמור ולסלקו שלא יזרקו בו אנשי ביתו. But there's another opinion, right, which we said is more lenient, which says that you are allowed to carry it, and place it into the corner. So why is that? As we said, because there's danger involved there. We don't want anybody to get hurt with this sharp wood. So therefore, what we do is we just, we can even carry it in a normal way. For what purpose? To get rid of it, right? Basically, right? So no one should be harmed by it. So you see from there, by the way, an important principle, when it comes to the laws of muktzah, that if it's something which can be, causes a harm to people, so you're allowed to move it out of the way, and put it in a safe place. This way people shouldn't be harmed by it. So what does that mean? The rabbis didn't decree in cases of danger, the issue of muktzah. Okay. So then it goes on. All right, it says, Midi dehaba akos b'shut rabim. So this resembles like a thorn in the public domain. Because we said in Shabbat, Membet Amud Aleph, the mutar leolicho pachot mi'arba amot, that you're allowed to carry it, right, less than 4 amot. Achi misalko letzidei reshut rabim. Until you get it out of the way, right, in the side of the public domain. In order it shouldn't harm anybody. So Rabbeinu holds, right, to the Torah. שלא נאמרו דברים אלו אלא בעץ שאינו מיוחד לשיפוד. These things were all, he says, were only said regarding a piece of wood which is not designated to be a skewer. דאלו מיוחד לשיפוד, because if it was that designated to be a skewer, Torah kli alav, then it's considered a utensil, that's something else. מותר לטלטלו, so then you can carry it. בכל עניין, in any case, she said. Right, so from this passage over here, it seems like, the skewer is actually a utensil. So what does that mean? Only if it's made for that purpose, right? So then you can carry it, not really a problem. So that would imply that, it's reusable, because otherwise, if there's no more use for it, right, you got to get rid of it. Okay, interesting. So it goes on here. That's the way it comes out from Tosfot. שכתבו על דין זה, דשני ג'יפוד, ולאחר מלאכתו אין תורת כלי עליו. So it says, right, that skewers are different. Why? Because once you finish your job with it, your usage, it's not called a utensil anymore. So he says that must be talking about a case where it's not designated to be a skewer, right? So you see from this context here, right, one thing, that in those days, apparently, something which was a skewer, they did reuse it. It was reusable, even if it was made out of wood. So therefore, it still is called a kli, a utensil. So when do we say that it's not called a utensil? When it's not really made to be a skewer. So therefore, it's not reusable. You're not going to use it again. You're going to throw, so it's going to be discarded. אבל רבנו ירוחם כתב דמאחר שאינו עושה מעשה כלי אלא מעשה קוץ. Right, so but then it says Rabbi Yerucham, since he's not doing making this into a utensil, rather it's like a thorn. So the rabbis didn't agree didn't allow to carry it, only for its own purpose. That's what it seems also Tosfot. That's kind of show. That's the end of it. So he says, right, from his words, it seems like even if it's something which is especially made to be a skewer, even that's forbidden, right? So in other words, we have two different approaches over here, right? According to one approach, as we said before, it depends on if it's a real skewer or it's just an ad hoc piece of wood. But here, right, according to this approach, even if it's a real skewer, it has no usage after one use. So therefore, it's the same thing. Okay, interesting. Kobo, so then it goes on. Kobo says, he says, right, that the skewer that was used for roasting meat, you're not allowed to carry it. So what does that mean? Afilu al gab basar, even on top of the meat, even by dint of the meat that was left on it. After you remove the roast meat there. So as we said, right, chuck it into the corner, right? So you shouldn't carry that thing anymore, except tzorach gufo, right? That is needed for its body. Or you need the space there. Okay, interesting. A little more here, one more piece. Well, it says here, and now what the Torah said, right? You're not allowed to carry it. Rather, we said, right? Chuck it into the corner. So it says, "But Yosef, right? This is according to Rab Malkio about the Rabina, but according to Rabina, the Kaimalan Kivateh that we hold like him. According to him, you're allowed to carry the normal manner. Right? What's the purpose? What's the reason? Because as we said, right, that since it's dangerous, you want to get it out of the way. So the rabbis allowed you to carry it in a normal manner. To the Pirush Rashi, right, like Rashi explains, Ravina Amar. So it seems to me that it says that Rabbeinu, the Torah, that has this text that Ravina said, Afa Pishin Alav Kazait Bazar, even if it doesn't have kazait of meat, Shara, you're allowed, Veno Gores Mutar, but it doesn't say mutar, right? So there's two different languages, right? One says Share, one says mutar, but really the truth is they mean the same thing. That's the that's the text of the riff of the Rosh also says. So Tur explains that you're allowed to just chuck it into the corner. And put the place in the corner, so according to this, right, the Torah's approach, the only difference between these two opinions is like this. According to the first opinion, if you don't have a piece of meat on it, you can't do nothing with it. If you have a piece of meat, then you can chuck it into the corner. But according to this opinion, right, even if there's no piece of meat, you can still chuck it into the corner. But according to the approach of the Rif and the Rosh, I'm sorry, according to the approach of the The other opinion, right? Yeah. Other opinion. Right. Which yeah, the Rif and the Rosh, yeah, yes. So according to that opinion, you can carry the normal manner. So it's not like the tour, right? The tour has a different approach here. Okay, interesting. Right, so in other words, the tour understands it a little bit differently. So basically, right, to recap this whole thing, what's the difference between these two approaches? According to the tour, you cannot carry in the normal way. But according to those who allow you to carry in the normal way, right, so it's no problem, so what do? You just stick it in the normal way and put it in the corner, right? Or we would put it in the garbage. And something like that, right? Okay, good. So let's see how he passes in the Shulchan Aruch. Interesting. There's a Shulchan Aruch. לקח עץ שאינו מיוחד לשיפוט וצלה בו בשר. And so let's say he took a piece of wood, and it's not really a skewer, right? Just a piece of wood. But he used it for roasting, right? He used it like a skewer. אסור לטלטלו אחר כך. So he says, right, you're not allowed to carry it afterwards. Why is that? שאינו כלי, because it's not a utensil, right? It's not a skewer. אלא שומתו מניחו בקן זווית כדי שלא יזוקו בו. So what do? Right? Chuck it into the corner, right? Why is that? So nobody should be hurt. אפילו אין עליו בשר כלל, right? Even if it doesn't have any meat at all. Okay, well, let's see the Ramah. So says the Ramah, הגה, ולצורך אוכל נפש מותר לטלטל הכל. But it says, when it comes to, the sake of consumption, you're allowed to carry anything, it says. אפילו מוקצר, even if it's מוקצר. Oh, wow. Yeah, okay. Makes sense. He brings that from the Rambam. And the Mordechai, okay, interesting. So now the only question I have left here is, did the Shulchan Aruch paskin like the understanding of the Torah or the other understanding, right? So the truth is that according to the language here, it implies that he understands it like the Torah, which means that you cannot carry in a normal way. Let's see how the Mishnah Berurah, right, explains this. Interesting. Let's see what he's got here. That's the way he understands it, yeah. That we pass like the Torah, that you cannot carry in a normal way. So what do? As we said, right? Push it with your feet or something, do something abnormal there, right? Push it with your foot, do something, unusual. Not the normal way. Okay, sounds good. Maybe we can try to do another one. Let's see. Okay. So we're going to Dalet. So let's see the tour over here, right? It says the tour. מותר לטלטל הסולם משובח לשובח. You're allowed to carry the ladder from one dovecote to another. אפילו ברשות הרבים, even if it's in a public domain. סולם קטן. So it says, that's only regarding a small ladder. כגון של שובח, right, of a dovecote. אבל גדול כגון של עלייה, when it comes to a large ladder, אסור לטלטלו, you're not allowed to carry it. אפילו בבית, even in the house. Wow, interesting. So yeah, what's going on with those ladders on Yom Tov? Huh? What do you... Okay, so let's see the Beit Yosef, how he explains this, right? So it says Beit Yosef, so right, to recap the tour, right, what do we say there? That you can use a small ladder, but not a large one, right? Basically, that's what we said. You know, the guy who, right, shot Trump, right? He was using a large ladder there, you know? We should have told him, you're not allowed to use that. He climbed up with a large ladder on the second floor. So, okay. So anyway, right, it says over here in the Beit Yosef, the Perek Kama de Bitzah, right? First Perek of Bitzah. That's the source. Where is that? In Tet Amud Aleph, right? Tanan. We learned the Mishnah there. Bet Shammai Omrim En Mordechin Et Sulam Mishobach LeShubach Aval Matehu Michalon LeChalon. Right. So Bet Shammai says that you're not allowed to carry a ladder from one dovecote to another. Rather, what do? He says just tilt it from one window to another. You can tilt it. So why is tilting allowed? Because it's abnormal, right? It's not the normal way of carrying it. That's Bet Shammai. So Bet Hillel allows this, right? To move the ladder around. As we said, right? We're talking about a small ladder, but we're going to get to that. So there's two languages there in the Gemara, right? Two versions of the story there. According to one language there, even Bet Hillel says that you're not allowed to do this in the public domain. But according to the other version, Bet Hillel allows even in the public domain. כתב Rosh, says the Rosh, פסקו הגאונים דלכולה עבדינן. So the Geonim said, right, we go lenient over here, right? So let's go like lenient opinion. ולכך לא הביא הריף אלא במשנה כצורתה משום. So therefore the Rif brought the Mishnah, he says, according to a simple meaning, because he holds that, right, Bet Hillel allows in any case. In other words, whether it's a public domain or a private domain, it's all the same. It doesn't make any difference. והר"ן כתב שהטעם שלא הביא הריף שום אחד מלשונות. So the Ran says the reason why the Rif didn't bring any of these versions of the story הוא מפני שפסק בפרק הבית, חבית, because he paskin in Shabbat, סמך בית עמוד א', כדי אמר רב יהודה אמר רב, like this rabbis, כל מקום שעשו חכמים מפני מראית עין. So it says there that when the rabbis forbade something because of that it looks suspicious, אפילו בחדר חדרים אסור. It's forbidden to do this even in a closed room, right? אסור, פילקח על כוכך בית הלל אפילו ברשות הרבים שרו. So he says, therefore, you have to say that Bet Hillel allows even in public area, public domain. The Ehavu Aseh B'Reshut Harabim. So it says, if they were forbidding in the public domain, B'Reshut HaYachid Nami Havu Aseh, they were also forbidden in the private domain. So therefore, it's allowed in any case, he says. Okay. Good. So let's continue. So then he brings the next part, right, of the tour. Rabbeinu מה שכתב רבנו הוא דבר גדול כגון שעלייה אסור לטלטלו אפילו בבית. So then, right, as we said, the Torah said that when it comes to a large ladder, a big ladder, you're not allowed to carry it even in the house. Gam zeh sham, it's also over there in Betzah, Tet Amud Bet. Tanya Rav Yehuda b'midvan morning. Says Rav Yehuda, what are we talking about? Besulam shel shovach, right? We're talking about a ladder, the dovecote. About besulam shel aliyah. When it comes to right a ladder for going up on the second floor, right? Divrei hakol asur. Everybody agrees it's forbidden. Mishum de'aro'eh omer le'atiach gadol hu tzarich. Because the one who sees it, right, is going to say what? That he's using that ladder to go up to the roof, right? To do some plastering there, right? That's what he's going up there for. In other words, they're going to suspect him that he's doing something illegal there, right? He's going to assassinate the president, right, over there on the roof there, right? So watch out, with this guy. But there's a lot of crazy people out there. So, right, Katav Rosh, so it says, right, the Rosh, according to the first opinion, Ata is coming to the first opinion. That's how Lachai says. The Rif also seems to hold like that. The Katav Ran says Ran, the Muchach beGemara, the Afilu Hitui bechalon lechalon asu. Right, so he says, right, that in the Gemara it seems to say that even tilting it from one window to another is forbidden. V'ikshar rosh, in other words, when it comes to a big ladder, even tilting it is not allowed. Interesting. So then he goes on. Piresha Rosh, right? The Rosh explains. The Rosh asks a question here. V'ikshar rosh, midaminan the perek chalon. Since we say right in this perek, Ayin Chet Amud Aleph, shemutar letaltel sulam b'Shabbat. You're allowed to carry a ladder on Shabbat. But Rabbeinu Tam, so Rabbeinu Tam answers to this question. There he says, Rabbeinu Tam, we're talking about right household ladders, right, which are allowed to use, right? So what does that mean? That usually people, carry it around the house, right? To go up here, to go up there, right? To get this thing over there on the top, right? The top cupboard or top shelf, whatever it is, right? Sometimes you can't reach it, so you need a ladder. So a ladder like that, you're allowed to use anytime, no problem, right? That's what he's saying. So that's not the same thing as right a ladder that you use to go up to the second floor. Shayu gedolim, right? Because they were large. These ladders are large. They're huge. So a person like that looks like he's going up there, right, to plaster his roof, right, to do some, housework, right, whatever, right, some renovation. So that looks suspicious. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, you can understand that, right? In other words, when you see somebody, right, with a ladder, right, going up to the roof of his house, right? You know what he's going up there for, right? He's going up there to do some job, some renovation. What else is he going to do up there? What I mean? What is he going to do? Make a barbecue there? So, it looks suspicious, when you do that. Let's say if you would see, somebody, right, your friend, right, your neighbor, going up to his roof on Shabbat, with a ladder, So what would you think? Oh, yeah, this guy, he's doing some housework there, right? Some renovation, Doesn't look good. This is the reason why rabbis decreed on this. Okay, so then he goes on. Rav Abraham Miburgil, right? This rabbi Tiretz, he answers that b'Yom Tov shemutar leotzi sulam reshut rabim. So see, we're talking about Yom Tov. He says where you're allowed to take a ladder to the public domain. Because the person who sees it will see the atiach gago tzarich, and like as we said, right, he'll think that he's doing some renovation there. Right, so since it's forbidden in the public domain, then it's forbidden also in the private domain. Okay. But he says regarding Shabbat, that it's not the way, right, to carry, right, in the public domain. As we said, right, Shabbat and Yom Tov is not the same thing. When it comes to carrying, right, it's a different ballgame altogether. We discussed that yesterday. Hilkach babait mutar. So therefore, it says in the house it's allowed. Ulhai shinuya asur letaltel. So it says according to this answer, whatever, right? You're not allowed to carry sulam shelano b'yom tov. You're not allowed to carry our types of ladders on Yom Tov. That's the end of it. Okay. Okay. Whatever their ladders were. Rabbeinu nireh midvarav. So it's now comments to the Bit Yosef. That it says the Torah, it seems like from his words, Tan shehu posek kishinuya de Rabbeinu Tam. It seems like he passes like Rabbeinu Tam. Sharei katav about gadol kegon shel aliyah asur. Because he wrote, right, that when it comes to a big ladder, like the one you use to go up to the roof, right, it's forbidden. Asur. Be'enu kedem mifaresh Rabbeinu Tam, just like Rabbeinu Tam explains, the sulamot shel aliyah tama tasui mipnei shehem gdolim. So Rabbeinu Tam says, right, why are these ladders not allowed to use? Because they're large. Okay. The kasher, so he says difficult. Why? Shebasiman shach, this siman, right? Shinchet, chapter 308, which is laws of Shabbat, right? It seems like he holds like the answer of this rabbi. Sharei katav sulam afilu shel aliyah. Says even if a ladder, even if it's like to go up to the roof, gadol and it's big, mutar letaltelo b'Shabbat. You're allowed to carry it on Shabbat. Bechatzer in the courtyard. That's like the other rabbi, right? Not like Rabbeinu Tam. Rabbeinu Tam, because according to Rabbeinu Tam, ben b'Shabbat, ben b'Yom Tov asur. This would be forbidden whether it's Shabbat or Yom Tov. Interesting. But in early the Rabbeinu Abraham who posek k'namashma b'dvarav. So it says the Bit Yosef, right? It seems like the Torah is passing like this rabbi, right? Rabbeinu Abraham, and not the Rabbeinu Tam. Like it implies from his words, but Siman Shimchet, like it's over in that chapter, Umash Katav Kan, and now what he wrote over here about Gadol Kegon Shel Aliyah Asur, right? If it's a large one, for instance, to go up to the roof, as we said, it's forbidden. Ke'arav Abraham, like this rabbi, Nami Ate is comes also like him. The Stam Sulam Shel Aliyah Gadolu, because usually, right, when you have a ladder that goes up to the roof, it's usually large. According to everybody, Rabbeinu Tam mefaresh the sulam. But Rabbeinu Tam explains that the ladder shel aliyah, like the ladder which is to go to the roof, ben b'Shabbat ben b'Yom Tov asur. It's forbidden both on Shabbat and Yom Tov. So that which we permitted over there, it's really, what is it talking about? B'sulam shel bayit. We're talking about a household ladder, right? That's something else. Shelo gadol. It's not so big, right? It's not so big. So therefore it's allowed whether it's Shabbat or Yom Tov. Okay, good. Rabbeinu Avraham mefaresh, but this rabbi explains the sulam shel aliyah shu gadol asur. Right? If the ladder goes up to the roof, it's forbidden. Why? Because it's big. Yom Tov on Yom Tov, umatar b'Shabbat. On Shabbat it's allowed. About sulam shel bait. Bichlal sulam shel shobachu. But it says when you have a household ladder, it's the same thing as the ladder for the dovecot. Mutar, and therefore it's allowed ben b'Shabbat b'Yom Tov, whether it's Shabbat or Yom Tov. About kasher al zeh, so it says, but difficult on this. Mash katav Rosh, from what it says in the Rosh, al divrei Rabbeinu Abraham regarding this rabbi. L'hai shinuya, according to this opinion, asur letaltil sulam b'shelanu. It's not allowed to carry all types of ladders, Yom Tov and Yom Tov. So it implies that it's talking about a household one. So it says perhaps we can push out and say, it's talking about a large one, like the one that goes into the roof. Even though Tosfot said in Betzah, Tetamud Bet, Katvu Amai the Kamar, regarding that which we said. Hatam, Martika Share Tana Kama, that which your first opinion admits, right? Allows, permits, right? Permits. The Tana Kama, the first Tana, Asar Rabbi Dosa, but Rabbi Dosa forbade that. Tafilu Bashar Sulamot Lo Sharet. He doesn't even allow other types of ladders. Ela Hitui, he only allows to tilt it. Betema, Rabbi Dosa, the Amar Keman. So then, right, it's a wonder, who did Rabbi Dosa say like? ויש לומר דרבי דוסה יאמר דלא נחלקו בית שמאי ובית הלל. So it seems like we're going to say, right, according to his opinion, that Bet Shammai and Bet Hillel didn't really argue b'davar hazeh regarding this issue. Mashma. The Kaimalan ke Rabbi Dosa, because we hold like Rabbi Dosa. The Tema, so he says it's a wonder, the Perek Chalon, because this Perek, right, in Chalon, Ayin Zan Amud Bet. Amina the Metaltenin at the Sulam, that we're allowed to carry the ladder. V'yesh lomar the Shani, the Shnei Minei Sulamotem, right? So again, right, we answer the same way. That there's two types of ladders, right? But there we're talking about small ones, right? There we're talking about big ones. Right? This rabbi, that he explains differently. He says, no, over there it's talking about Shabbat, etc. According to this, he says, it's forbidden to carry, right, our ladders, Yom Tov and Yom Tov, even in his house. Shema halacha ki Rabbi Dosa, because maybe halacha is like Rabbi Dosa, but tzarich iyun, so we have to research this. Ad kan neshonam, that's the way it ends. The nireh, the midivrahem, the sulam shel bait. So it comes out from their words that a household ladder, afal pi she'enu gadol asur, even if though it's not big, it's forbidden. Leolichov b'makom makom, take from one place to another. Kid Rabbi Dosa, like Rabbi Dosa. Mikol makom yesh lomar. Nevertheless, he says you can say that shemeachar she'arosh lo izkir Rabbi Dosa, since the Rosh didn't mention Rabbi Dosa klal at all. Imken b'shel shovach pashita le deshare. So therefore, right, he holds that when it comes to dovecote, it's definitely allowed. Kibet Hillel, like Bet Hillel. V'fichach yesh makom lomar kishkatav alehu shinuya asur. That when he wrote, right, that there is, it says there is a place to say. Therefore, there is a place to say here that when he gave that answer, that it's forbidden to carry sulam shelanu, carry our ladder. Yom tov b'sulam gadol is talking about a big one. Kemo shel aliyah, like for the roof. Tavka kama. That's only what it's talking about. About shel batim, but when it comes to the household one, stam, right, small ones, have a bichlal shel shovach. So it's considered to be like a dovecote canal. So it says we have to investigate that a little bit. Okay, interesting. So we're almost done, right? Hold on to your seat. Right? Don't give up hope. We're almost there. The Rambam Katab Pek. So it says the Rambam. What is he paskin? En molechin et sulam shel shobach mishobach le'shobach. So he says, right, we don't carry the ladder, right, of the dovecote from one dovecote to another. Right? When it comes to public domain. Why? Because it looks like, he's going up there to the roof, right, to do right, repairs and renovations. Oh, no good. So he says, even though in any case where the rabbis forbade, right, because of suspicion, right, they forbade that even in the private domain, in the private area. Asur can, but here it's forbidden. It's differently. In other words, in general, it's forbidden. But he says here, can hitiru, here they allow this. Simchat Yom Tov. Why? Because of Simcha of Yom Tov, right? Enjoying the Yom Tov. So, what joy are you getting, by the way, of to going into your dovecote, right? What's the joy there? What are you enjoying? What, seeing the birds there? What, the pigeons? What's right. So, anybody have a clue? Okay, so the answer is like this, right? What he means to say is that he's taking those birds to slaughter them and eat them, to have a nice meal. That's what it's talking about, right? That's the joy. To enjoy Yom Tov, to have a nice, right, a birdie dinner, right? Fowl, right, for your dinner. Okay. Okay. Uperesh Rav Magid says Magid Sugyat Gemara Ledato. He explains the Gemara according to his opinion. And then he writes afterwards. Katav Rabbeinu Sulam Shel Shovach. So he says the Rambam says, right, we're talking about a ladder of a dovecote. The fish Sulam Shel Aliyah Asur, because if it's going up to the roof, it's forbidden. Even to tilt it, one to window to another. That's what it says in Gemara. So he says Rabbeinu didn't need to explain that. it's self-explanatory. Oh, good. Okay, well, I'm glad. All right, so it says Bebiur Lefi yeah, right. So it says why? Bebiur Lefi Shekvar Katab Prek Kaf Vav Binchot Shabbat. Because he already wrote, right, in the laws of Shabbat, שסולם של עלייה אסור. That what? That the, as we said, right, the ladder which is going into your roof is forbidden. The tool to carry it. Right? What are we talking about here? We're talking about the Rambam, right? Chapter 26 of Laws of Shabbat. If you want to find it, right, go for it. Halacha Zayin, right? 7th halacha. So the Midbar Perek Aleph Binchot Elu. So it says, right, explains in first parak of these laws, Shekol Mashe Asur, the Shabbat Asur b'Yom Tov, right? The general rule is whatever is forbidden on Shabbat is also forbidden on Yom Tov, right? It's basically the same, more or less, right? 90%. Mima shenizkar b'Hilchot Elu, right? But except what we learned these halachot. And so in other words, there are exceptions to the rule, as we said, right? Of course, that Shabbat and Yom Tov are not the same. Okay, but generally they're the same. That's what we're saying, right? Except these cases here. Okay. So, okay, let's look at the Shulchan Aruch and we're done. We are done. So says Shulchan Aruch, mutar l'taltel sulam shel shobach mishobach l'shobach, right? As we said, you're allowed to carry, right, the ladder of the dovecote from one dovecote to another, even in public domain. But when it comes to a ladder which goes into the roof, right, you're not allowed to carry, right? So what does that mean for us, right? We don't have dovecotes, right? We're not dealing with stuff like that. What it means is basically you can use your household small ladder because there's no suspicion there that you're going up to do some, repairs and renovation, right? You're just going up to your cupboard to, get some spices from there, or whatever it is, right? No big deal, it's no big mystery. Doesn't look suspicious at all. So therefore, a small ladder, we allow it, but those large ladders, right, they go up to the roof. No, that we don't allow. Why is that? Because it looks like you're going to do renovation, right? Right. Repairs and renovation, right? R&R. Right. Okay, so that's the story. Okay, very good. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, we'll stop here, and we'll see you next week. B'ezrat Hashem. Tomorrow is Shabbat. That's we won't be here tomorrow. We'll see you on Sunday.
Thank you so much.
God bless you. Have a good night. Laila Tov. Chazak u'baruch.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Thanks for coming. Be blessed with wealth and health and happiness. Amen. God bless.
Thank you so much.
God bless.